And welcome back once more to Spore War After the War. This is our weekly analysis and retrospective series on the Spore War Actual play that we are hosting here on Dungeon Scrawlers. This is the place where we get to celebrate events that just happened in the episode that hopefully you just watched, ask questions about things we want to learn more about, and perhaps pull back the curtain and reveal a little bit about actual play production while we're here. My name is Jason Collins. I am a freelance comic book writer, award-winning actual play streamer and game master, tabletop role-playing game designer, and I am the producer and editor for the Spore War series here on Dungeon Scrawlers. And because I am the producer of Spore War, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the Gamerunner for Spore War, Seneschal.
Hi, everyone.
I'm exhausted. And I'm exhausted, Seneschal, because we just had a marathon Spore War session that I hope our faithful audience, if they are sticking with us this long, can power through that. It's going to be the magic of editing for me, because I need to edit that monster down to make it as appetizing as I can for the audience, because it took us a little while to get there. But it was a monumental episode, and a critical both in roles and in outcome, tactical event, scene, fight, struggle to the death, and almost to the death of multiple player characters, which I honestly thought for a moment we were going to be having that discussion tonight, that there was going to be a funeral scene in our future, but they squeaked, and because we're using the Roll20 platform, because we were sharing the dice rolls with the audience, there was no fudging of the rolls. There was one real dice moment tonight, but everything else was on screen for the audience to see, and so they got to see the tragedies of the dice rolls, and then the final triumphs right when they occurred, that allowed them to pull it through. I'll pause there and let you jump in on that.
And I loved that combat for a variety of reasons. And I was struggling through with a head cold and all sorts of other things. With 9:30 p.m. our time, and other people are on the East Coast, and everyone was, I think, fatigued. But it was exciting combat, and I have to say, the dice rolls made it exciting. The actual nemesis design, the enemy design, made it exciting. The players' actions made it exciting. And the fact that it was a razor-thin margin between death or victory made it exciting.
We're going to blow past this real quick because we want to talk about, obviously, the bigger parts of the session, but you made a design choice and a game runner choice to skip a middle part of this sort of extended encounter where there was a series of rooms and traps and puzzles and things to solve, in the spirit of getting to the more interesting part of the adventure path tonight. And that was a strong choice because of the time constraints involved in dealing with that final encounter scene, but also just from the fact that you just recognize that from a challenge standpoint, perhaps other than a few hit points from traps and things like that, there wasn't going to be a lot of challenge for the players. It was just going to be time consuming. It's interesting from a game design, the audience will have seen the map when it came up on the screen of the rooms that we kind of bypassed. It looked neat to me. I would like to have learned more about that in terms of what they had planned there. But I appreciated your decision that we're just gonna narratively pass through this and explain what they encounter and why to get to the more important scene tonight, which was critical given the complexity of it involved.
Yeah, even at a home table, I might have skipped over that part, not because it's badly designed, but because the design philosophy from Paizo, if you watch any of their interviews from the authors of Adventure Paths, is you have to earn every experience point, and overcoming challenges or monsters is part of it. My philosophy as a game runner is different. I want to keep the narrative strong. I want to keep the tension strong. And if anything feels like a grind for experience or for resources, at the home table, I'm definitely going to skip over it.
Yeah.
Unless there's some merit to it. And at on an actual place, I think it's even more important to take the grind elements out.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me in terms of this adventure is not I think mazes and traps have their place, and I think the trap that heaped raw sewage on the players last time,
Yeah.
that was great.
Yeah.
I definitely like that one. But a spear trap, everyone's heard of a spear trap. There's not going to be anything memorable from a spear trap unless it kills someone, and it's not going to kill someone before they meet the bad guy, right? Like they're already fine. In contrast, and I also, with the room full of the actual cultists, that was supposed to be a bigger fight. They have neat abilities. I thought about adding them into the boss's room, but decided against that, and I'm
Yes.
glad I did.
Yes.
But what I didn't want to skip over was the lead up to this guy's not just the first room. There has to be some lead up, and so they were necessary. But they expend a fireball, they sneak in. I didn't need to play through all their hit points, and they were tough enough that that would have been an hour and a half of combat.
Yeah.
Not important.
Yeah.
What was important was the room behind where the corrupted people can be saved, one of whom can be saved and the other whom is too far gone.
You still got the awesome horror reaction revealing the rotting cultists and what they look and sound like, and so I really appreciated the group's reaction to that. That like, oh, this is horrific and this is terrible, and kill it with fire was the appropriate
Yeah.
response, and that in response to that piece. And as you say, but not enough that they overlooked the saving those that they could save.
Right.
You said a moment ago that your goal was to avoid the grind. I am sorry to tell you, Seneschal, as the game runner of Spore War, tonight was not of the grind was not avoided because that final battle ground out to the last possible roll as long as it possibly could. And I'm laughing now because the outcome was pretty dramatic. But oh my gosh, the round by round of that and the danger that they were all in was amazing to me. And so again, for the audience that has the stamina to stick with it, there's some really great moments and really great example by you of how to use a singular NPC, a singular villain, a singular encounter that can still challenge a high level multi PC party, just by virtue of the environment, using their abilities in clever ways, and having the right defenses in place, and something as simple as a repulsion spell immediately changed the tone of that.
That's all Paizo's work, though. That was great encounter design on their part because he is an alpha opponent. He is he's not a pushover. He is capable of dealing with a party, and a less capable party would have no chance against him.
Yes. Yes.
It is absolutely their design. I think I ran it well, and partly the players made that fun and interesting, and partly the failures on that repulsion save. It would have been a way different result if everyone had saved right away.
And got in right away. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I did think about that too. I also thought about the fact that I heard them doing a little bit of math on their hit points before they entered that room, and we've talked about this before with our home table where we played through and completed all 6 books, the Age of Ashes Adventure Path series, which was a tremendous experience for our home table. You and I, as the co-game masters for that series, where we traded off on the books, each book as we went through. You and I did research on that series, and we noted GMs that shared play-by-plays of their tables experiences and their lack of preparation in some of the harder encounters and how that decimated them. And I always echo back to that because it's such a good reminder for me to make sure that you're both reminding the player characters to take the precautions when you can, but also to not shy away from the consequences if they fail to do that. As they were approaching this final encounter, we narrated past the maze and trap area, and I heard them refreshing on their hit points, and some of them were down a lot of hit points. And you had reminded them both at the beginning and I think midpoint, you've got potions, you've got other healing with you, and they weren't using those healing resources. And I'm like, oh, that's your hit points don't sound very high. And the mental conversation in my head was like, you should drop a potion. You should talk to anybody who's got healing magic. And they didn't do that before encountering this final room, and that could have been a disaster.
I'm going to call you out on this, and then I'm going to go into my answer. When we first started game together, you would often walk into encounters at half hit points, and even now, you and I have a slight difference in approach in that you will go into an encounter, you know you're going to go into combat as a player character, and you will be like, I'm only 12 down, it'll be fine.
It's true. I've said
And
those.
I'm like,
I've said those exact words.
and I'm like, what are you doing? Those 12 points can make a difference between survival or not.
Yes, they
Never
can.
healing on the table.
Yes, they
Never
can.
the combat's going to go okay.
Absolutely.
Uh, I will, if I have any resources, I will never go into an encounter as a player with less than full health because I've seen it so many times
Yeah,
where someone goes points under and they're out of the fight. And that
that's right.
snowballs into the next player falling down because they don't have your support anymore. And then it becomes a TPK.
Yep. Yep.
Total party kill for
No,
the.
it's sage advice, and it is true to the thing that you know, the old adage about in the computer games, saving all your healing potions until the end, and then you never end up using them, or saving all your boosts and never using them. It's the same, and all of those memes and all of those stories come from traditional tabletop role playing games, and it's a classic folly of players to assume that this is important. I should save this resource for a more important moment than this, and you don't get to that next moment if you don't survive the moment you're in.
Well, and they went into that final fight with unexpended lay on hands and things like that. They could have brought everyone up to full health without, maybe even without using potions. So on the one hand, I appreciate that they made that decision because it made that final combat way more dramatic.
It did.
They did not realize this guy had 5 different ways of doing damage to everyone all at the same time, up to 12 die 6 with his breath weapon attack.
Yeah, and most of it without getting his ass out of the chair.
That's right. But I hope they learn from this.
Yes.
Because there will be an interruption to this campaign where multiple people die if they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as a game runner to game runner, I think that I would also suggest to you that because we know that we're going into a bit of a break right now, just with our recording schedule, and we're getting very close to the conclusion of book 1 at the time of recording this after the war. We know there's not a ton of material left, but I would caution you or remind you to give them that reminder as well one more time when we do reconvene the party and the table, because it'll be important, and we know their enthusiasm has been there throughout, but the preparation sometimes gets missed. And so I think it would be really good to remind them to, and maybe you could even open with that when we come back to the wrap up of this part of this chapter of the book, that to really drive home the injuries and how close to death they all are. They know that as players, their player character sheets will reflect that in terms of their hit points, but they'll be so excited that they survived. Sometimes it's just like you might want to take a moment and just really drive home the different injuries and the different sort of states of survival they're at and how close it was, and kind of drop that little angel and devil on the shoulder and say, did you do everything you could do before you came into this room? What befalls the fate of the heroes of Green Gold if they go into the sewers and in Zur and no one ever hears from them again?
So 2 things I'll say to that. One is, I bet they will explore the next room without thinking of healing themselves because they think the danger is over. And we may still have a total party kill.
Oh my God.
In the epilogue, if they don't.
Yep.
And 2, you've given advice to me a couple times throughout the series that's always excellent advice. We know each other really well, and absolutely it's good advice, and I guarantee I will not remember to say that to them.
That's fair. I'll be there for you in the moment when we need to.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That's why we're doing this as a partnership. So two GMs for the price of one. Yeah, no, because I don't want them. I don't, and this is a great sort of a sidebar for a moment. I do not prescribe to that adversarial GM versus the player's mindset. We have talked about that in private at the home table. We've talked about it briefly, maybe here or there on After the War. It's good just to refresh on again what I mean by that. Us, a couple of Gen X gamers coming up through the heyday and the rise and fall of Dungeons and Dragons as a hobby in the early days. And we played with a lot of different GMs and a lot of different players, rules as written, house rules thrown all over the place, right? All different styles of play, but we've both had encounters in our time with adversarial game masters who believe it's their job to not just oppose the player characters at every turn, but punish them at every opportunity. I despised those gaming memories. I cherish them in what they carried forward with me, how they informed me as a game master, how they informed the types of games, the tables I would seek out in my future, because I would be very much more selective going forward after encountering those types of games. But I do not prescribe to that, and so I see nothing wrong with giving the players who are all here to have fun that reminder, and it's in no means takes away the risk they're facing. But the players are human, the player characters are heroes, and so you need to remember the difference between the two, and help your players out and remind them of things that they should be doing, that their player characters might know to do automatically, that the players in their enthusiasm for the moment overlook.
Yes, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I will qualify that with a couple of things. One is I sometimes pretend I'm that adversarial GM.
Yes.
I sometimes pretend that I resent them interfering with my NPC's plans. I sometimes pretend I'm delighted when they're doing poorly or when the monsters are doing well. But in truth, and they know this, I think they trust me now. I want them to prevail. I want them to prevail in a way that tells a good story.
Yeah.
And the end of the story is not a good story if it's, by a silly oversight or something like that. So I agree completely.
Totally.
And I had those experiences with GMs, and I think there are a couple of different categories. There are those who are well-meaning and misunderstand the role of the game runner. And then there are those who are just assholes.
Yeah.
And they should never be in the GM's chair if they hate the people they're playing with or want them to suffer the experience rather than have fun. So, and you see that so seldom these days, I think, or at least we do. Maybe we're in rare air with the people we play with.
Well, I think that we absolutely are. I think that the privilege that you and I enjoy both at our private home table and in our actual play experiences that we've had, in the actual play experiences that I've had leading up to this series, I have been exceptionally lucky and privileged and fortunate and grateful for the types of players that I've been able to play with. But there's an old adage in gaming, right? No gaming is better than bad gaming. And I have I've been invited to games in the past where I knew who the GM was, knew that they were an adversarial GM, and I, without a hesitation in a moment, as much as I wanted to be playing D&D, declined that invitation to the game and did not want to participate because I knew it would be an absolute shit show.
Yeah. And it probably was.
Yeah. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Actually, I've talked about that with you at the private home table as well, that old gaming groups that from our past and friend circles from our past and people that we enjoyed playing with. But some players evolve, some players adapt to their styles as their experience goes on, and some still cling to their same play styles. Yeah. I have friends that are like that. They are friends that I love and I wish them well. I don't enjoy gaming with them, and I don't game with them anymore because of that sort of stuck to their gun type of style, where I can predict the outcome of the session before the session even begins, because it's that you doomed to repeat the same thing over and over again cycle, and I've seen that happen too many times, and I'm like, that's not a good use of my time. I don't get any joy out of doing that. So
yes. I have a question for you.
Yes.
Changing topics, but what did you think about my and I've done this before, but my revelation of things that would not be obvious to the player characters, such as by killing him, then you avoided 12 die 6 acid damage, or he's lost the fast healing 30 now. There are moments where I conceal that, but there are moments where I say, this is the game rule effect that's happening behind the scene.
I love that for two reasons. I love it for the private home table because we've done that ourselves, where we've revealed a little bit of the players never would have known. They got some lucky rolls in a critical hit at the right moment and ended the fight before it started. I've had several overpowered NPCs that I was gleefully waiting to inflict upon you guys, and then you guys just wiped the board with my plans, and it works as well. And then you get to share a little, pull back and say, well, it's good that you did that because here was going to be the outcome. Here's how that could have gone wrong. I love that because it was a great reaction, and even I was like, fast healing 30. Holy shit, that's really overpowered. That's really devastating to a bunch of martial characters trying to whittle this guy down. And I think the only thing that I would like to have, and I thought about this afterwards. This is just feedback for you. I would have loved to have had you just pause for a couple of quick moments. Long session, yet we need to get through it. There was a lot to do. To give little clues about how Ventilax was tied into the room, tied into the fungus, tied in. Yeah. Obviously, he was tethered, and there was a physical description of that. But I would love to almost see it like as he breathed, the room breathed. I would like to tie in that the room sustaining him to kind of feed into how you could reveal some of those things as well. That's just the writer in me taking.
No, that would have been better. And sometimes I do that, and sometimes I don't. And when I'm struggling with a head cold, that goes out the window. But
I know, and that's why
you are of course right. I don't feel at all guilty for not taking advantage of every moment like that, but it is valid feedback, and frankly, I wish I'd done it. But yeah, he's a really neat NPC.
Yeah, I liked him a lot. And hey, that was free advice from the award-winning game master of New Jersey WebFest 2025.
See what I have to put up with now? He's at my game table. He's usually my game master when I'm running a player. It's so hard. Yes, sir. No, you know what? You are an excellent game master, and I think one of the things that we've talked about before is that having other people at the table who are at your level of play is important. It is really. If you have, you don't all have to be storytellers. You don't all have to be, masters of the rules. But having people who are as invested and bring something to the table to the equivalent level. If you're all beginners, you're all beginners. If you're all experienced, having skill sets and things you bring to the table, that's all great. But I also think that despite your resentment of having bad experiences at some prior game tables, you don't seek out bad experiences. But if they happen, they at least do serve a role in reinforcing what's important.
Absolutely. That's the same. And for some tables, and some tables are casual and that's just getting to the gaming, but many of our tables are they comprise our friendships, and some of the most important people that we spend with. Those are relationships that you're cultivating, and so if those relationships are not fulfilling for you, you're going to shy away from that. And it's an extension of that lesson life that you want to seek out more people that fulfill you and that give you joy, and that you feel inspired to want to bring joy to their life at the same time as your games. You want your games to be fulfilling and joyful as well. They don't always have to be joyful games in the content, but they're fun to play and that you get something out of it. And so those lessons in terms of the gaming table extend to the relationships I have in my personal life as well.
Yeah.
The second answer I would give you though to your question about pulling back the curtain a bit, for the purposes of these actual play sessions that we're doing in this After the War series, I super appreciate you sharing those moments with them and explaining some of the mechanical behind the scenes stuff, because it reminds the audience this was at stake and this was some of the things the audience would have no idea unless they seek out the Adventure Path material themselves. They would have no idea the significance, the strength, the danger that Ventilax posed. But by sharing some of those moments, the breath weapon damage and the fast healing and things like that, the audience gets to share in that holy shit moment that the players have about, wow, just how dangerous this was. And fans of actual plays that enjoy Pathfinder Second Edition would probably get a bit of satisfaction out of that and going, wow, that was I can see now how close to going badly that encounter was.
It was really close to going badly.
Yeah. So that, I think, concludes the second chapter. Do I have that right? And for the book,
there'll be some wrap up, and they'll quickly return to Green Gold.
Yeah, for sure. So we are closing in on the final couple of sessions at this point of the first book of the Spore War series. I'm very much looking forward to the next couple of After the War sessions, because we will, we know the stakes now will go higher. Again, we talked about earlier, you've reminded them the risk and the danger that awaits them as they progress further, as they start to intercept some of the tyrants, vassals and agents and supporters, with all good fiction, as you take out the mooks, the boss eventually has to take a direct hand into things, and we know the tyrant likely will start to resent the interference that's taking place.
Yeah. Exactly. I'll comment on that next after the war.
Yeah, for sure.
But you're right in the sense that the player characters have captured the notice of the queen and her court. But there's that moment where they've captured the notice of really sinister beings with whose plans they're interfering.
I will be curious to know if any of these players have played in games, whether it's just an Adventure Path series or an ongoing campaign, that got to the level where they attracted that kind of attention, and did their GM bring that kind of, demigod / divine, attention, resentment, interference to their games based on the actions of the player characters, if they've ever had that before. We've had some really fun experience with that at the home table. We've started to toot our own horn for a moment. We've gotten good at how to use that appropriately in a way that doesn't have a deity come and put the thumb on the scale and immediately squash all of our plans, but at the same time to make it interesting and to make the actions of the heroic player characters have even deeper meaning, that there's other powers in Golarion taking notice of what you're doing for good and for bad, and that it kind of puffs up the players a bit and makes them feel like they've really succeeded at something.
One time we should, as we get later into this, we should talk about a GM using all aspects of the world, because the natural environments, the actual countries and states, and the political figures, the deities, the monsters, the entire scope of the world is something that's at your disposal as a dungeon master, game runner, game master, whatever you want to call it. And as your skills as a game runner expand, your ability to vary that up and make them have different impacts, I think, expands as well. But even as a beginner, I think it's important to understand you can overuse any tools. And as a 13-year-old, the gods were great, and you play with them all the time, and they'd intervene directly, and but not appropriate in a mature game. But at 15th level, you start to attract the notice of big players.
Absolutely. That's something we've talked about in our earlier sessions of After the War, about how to handle those higher level adventure series, and how to navigate that in our learning curve as GMs, rising to that and challenging ourselves, because we hadn't had a lot of experience as well in our own gaming history to how to do that well and how to do it effectively. I'll segue for a moment one more time and have an old man gaming story quickly moment. I can remember in high school, so my earliest history with Dungeons and Dragons and role playing games in general, and I can remember with some of it was like my core table that I played with, the core group of friends, but there was a larger group of us that people would float in and out in junior high, and then a couple of years of senior high school. You'd have a couple of other players that they wouldn't stick around long, but they'd be around for a while, and other players that had a very tactical winner takes all approach to the game. And I can remember them going through things like the Deities and Demigods, Legends and Lore books, or the old first edition Dungeons and Dragons books, going through and looking up the stats, the spell capabilities and the magic weapons of the various gods and demigods in the book, and deciding who they could take on and who they could go hunt down, and then coming up with super convoluted plans to target the specific weaknesses of each of those deities. And then we would play sessions where they would go off and attack these divine creatures, and reduce everything down to a hit point battle so that they could then kill that god and take their shit.
I had the same experience. I was 13 years old. We just got deities and demigods. We flipped through and like, oh, maybe we could take this guy. And I'm like, he has a shield that if you look at it, you die no save. Or like if he activates it,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
look at it, you die with no save.
Yeah.
How could we possibly? And we talked about it for a while. I said, well, maybe it's because he's overconfident. He wouldn't use it.
Yeah. Right.
It was, it was so much fun to go through. We never actually played that through, but we definitely had those conversations, and it was kind of fun.
Yeah. It was like the earliest versions of theory crafting, right? Like, okay,
Yeah.
how would this go down? And let's talk about how we do this. But it was also, like I said, with some of the players that never ended up being a permanent part of our table, because we still tried to play with a bit of structure and actually play through just modules and dungeon crawls and do things the standard way that the game was designed to do. But there was occasionally other players that I encountered along the path that they would have these player characters with these ridiculous +6 divine enchanted weapons that they'd basically gotten off of demigods or gods to ensure that they had the best character, essentially, right? It was just a comparison and a race to have the strongest character at the table.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fun times.
All a natural part of a player's progression.
That's right. Exactly right. Okay, for this marathon Spore War session that we just completed recording, closing thoughts for tonight?
What was that, 3.5 hours?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Raw footage wise, it'll be 3.5 hours. I need to get that down.
Yeah, sorry about that. I loved it though. I absolutely loved it. I loved every moment of it.
Yeah. I did too, and having the visual props was helpful to really drive home the horror fact. I've been looking forward to some of those horror moments, and that's why I've suggested like lean into those when you're describing them, just to really drive it home, because the players enjoyed it as well, and it brought it back into focus for them how dangerous this is.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody watching us along the way, for joining us for this latest episode of Spore War After the War. One more time, my name is Jason Collins. I am a freelance comic book writer. I am a award-winning actual play streamer and game master. I'm a tabletop role-playing game designer. You can find links to the other work I've done, my fantasy comic Thistle, and the other actual plays I've been a part of, including my award-winning actual play Quadrilateral Frostfall, right here on Dungeon Scrawlers, on my link tree at digital_Collins.
And I'm Seneschal. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.